Welcome back. Now we're going to get started and by creating the house, the tutorial house. So once you have your topo surface, you're going to go ahead and we're going to open the foundation floor plan over here on the left hand side by your project browser. And what that does is it shows you where your foundation is going to be. You can see here it's cut through my topo surface. So that's a good thing because we know that the foundation is below the level of the topo surface. So if we go ahead, we're going to pick a wall. So as you can see, it's on your home tab, left hand side. If you click the drop down menu, you can see it gives you a couple of choices of different walls. So it gives you a normal wall, a structural wall, wall by face. Wall by face, as you can see, is if you create a mass, you can assign the wall to be the mass to have different aspects of it be walls. Also floors and roofs also have this choice. Structural walls is a load-bearing wall, so we're going to actually use this for foundation. But if you're creating interior partitions or walls in your building that aren't structural, you can use this generic wall tool as well. So we're going to click structural wall. And as you can see, that modify palette comes up again, and your options bar down here gives you a whole bunch of different options. So we're going to get to that. First, we're going to pick what type of wall we want. So as you see, if you click on your properties bar and you click basic wall generic 8 inches, it gives you a whole bunch of different choices. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick foundation 12-inch concrete. Now you can always go back, and once you've created your walls, you can edit it. So as you see the crosshair, that means I'm ready to draw a line. If you come up here to your ribbon, you can see you can create walls a whole bunch of different ways. So you can explore those different options. If you already have lines drawn in Revit, you can pick lines. So I don't have any of those right now, but I can show you that later. There's also line tool, box tool. So I'm just going to do a simple box. So I'm going to click and drag. And now as you can see, none of the elements created were visible in the floor plan. Now that happens for a couple of different reasons. If you go to the site plan, you can see I created them well below the topo surface. So if we go to the elevation and we try and figure out why that is, if we highlight them, you can see it highlighted the foundation level, and it's below the foundation level. So what that means is we have to select them, and you can see in your properties palette that the base offset is negative 12 feet. Now we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead in the properties, and we're going to change that to 0. But now we have to change where the wall goes. So as you can see, there's constraints in Revit. And as you can see, it just warned me that the bottom of the wall, the top of the wall is lower than the base of the wall. So what it wants us to do is change the top constraint first. So you can either put a number, or since we set up our levels, we're going to say up to level 1, and we're going to say the base offset is 0. So as you can see, if I click the properties, it just brings down a drop down menu, or it allows me to completely change the numeric number if it's in numeric. We're going to hit apply, and as you can see, it just popped those walls back up. So I'm going to open up the foundation level again, and there they've appeared. So if you have any issues, just make sure you look. Typically I like to go to elevation or 3D view and just kind of see what's going on. So now if you pick it, you can see again in the property palette, it's a basic wall foundation, 12-inch concrete, and I can change this to whatever I want. That's a good thing about Revit. Also, if you click your wall and highlight it, you can see you can just drag it to whatever you want it to be. You can also go up here to dimensions. You can change the dimension however you want. Remember, if you type feet, space, inches, it knows that, so it's a much quicker workflow. So now we're going to go back to our 3D view. We can see that it's low. So we might want to bring our first floor and make sure that it's above our topo surface. So we're going to actually highlight all of our levels and just raise them up. And as you can see, since I attached the foundation wall to the level, it drags it up with it. That's a good thing about connecting levels to, or elements like walls to your levels. Okay, so now that we have our foundation set, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open a level 1 floor plan. Now as you can see, there's nothing here. What we're going to have to do is we're going to go to our View tab here. We're going to click Visibility and Graphics, which is on the left hand side. And this brings up a whole bunch of different lists of things that you can and can't see. So if I check or uncheck this, I'll be able to see or unsee electrical equipment. So we're going to go here and we're going to click Topography to see topography. We're going to hit Apply, and nothing's going to come up because we're above our foundation, or above our topography level. So sometimes this happens, and what typically happens is that the cut of the plan is too high. So what we want to do is in our property palette, come down here and click View Range. And we're going to edit this. And what this does is it brings up a dialog box, and it allows you to figure out how far down you want to see. So right now it's cutting at level 1, and the cut plane is 4 feet. But since we don't have anything created on level 1, we don't see anything. So we actually want to see the level below as well. So we're going to click on this bottom one here. You can also play around, say you have an extra deep level, or you want to see a mezzanine level, something like that, but you haven't created a level. You can play around with these top views. You can also cut around with the cut plane and the bottom level. So you can, if you want the cut to be at eye level, you can change this to 6 feet. Or if you have an extra tall level for some reason, you can play around with that as well. So just make sure if you can't see something, come here and make sure that your view range is correct. So I'm going to hit Apply, and as you can see, now I see what's below. So now I can go off of this and create my walls now for my first floor. I'm actually going to create my floor first. So now that I have my foundation level and topo visible, I'm going to go back to Home, and I'm going to click on the Floor button. And as you can see, it has that drop down just like the wall did over here. So I'm going to click down and show you. There's all different types again: structural floor, floor by face. So depending on what you're using or what you need, you can pick different ones there. I'm just going to pick the normal floor. And over here, you can see right now we're going to be creating a boundary line. And again, it gives you all different ways to create boundary lines. One of my favorite things about these is you can actually just pick walls for the floors that you want. That's the last tool button over here. So if you highlight over a wall, depending on which way you come to the wall, you can see it gives you a dotted line on one side of the wall. We want our floor to be inside, so I'm going to approach from the inside, click. I'm going to again click all of the walls. Now say for some reason you messed up and you created one of your lines on the outside. Well, it won't let me right now, but if you created it on the outside of the wall, all you have to do is highlight it, and this double parallel line, click that, and it flips what side of the wall you're on. You can also do the same thing for walls. If there's an interior and an exterior side, you can also do the same for doors and windows. It just flips what side of the wall you're on, or of whatever element. So just keep an eye out for that. It's easier than redrawing everything. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick our floor type. You can pick whatever you want. I'm going to do a wood joist, 10-inch wood finish. And then I'm going to go ahead and click the green check mark. Now it's going to ask you, would you like the walls that go to the floor's level to attach to its bottom? Yes, we'd like to attach it. But now, as you can see, since we haven't actually drawn over top of the wall, it's not going to let you do that. So you're just going to hit OK, and it'll finish it for you. So if we go back to our 3D view, we can now see we have our foundation wall, and we have our first floor right there. So we're going to go back to level 1. Now we're going to create the walls. So again, we're going to click the first wall button. And as you can see, when I highlight over wall, in parentheses it gives me 2 letters. Now these 2 letters are the shortcut for wall. So if you're tired of clicking on all these buttons and you're a hotkey kind of person, you can just click WA and it automatically gives you the wall modify ribbon. So now again, if we just want to, we don't necessarily want to have to draw over all of these again. There's the pick line ability here in Revit, which is the green line with the arrow over it. So we're going to click there. And we're going to look at our options menu here. So that, like before, we had to edit our walls based on our properties, but we can do this before we even place the walls. So as you can see on your options bar here, we're going to go to depth, and we're going to start at, we're going to do the depth of the foundation. So that's 0, 0 right now. But we want to make sure we set our base constraint to level 1, because we want it to start at level 1. And it just warned me right there that it couldn't, because the top constraint was set to something else. So actually we want this depth to go up to level 2, and it's not allowing me to do that. Let me try this again. All right, well, we're going to create a unconnected wall for right now, and then I can show you how to create the wall correctly. Okay, so we're going to pick lines, and as you can see, it picks the outside of the wall. So if I create that, it's not really where I want it to go. So if we pick our wall type again, we're going to do an 8-inch generic wall. If you hover over any element in Revit, and it's not exactly what you want, you can press Tab, and it'll cycle through where the closest elements near it are. So we want to start it in the middle, so I'm going to tab to the middle. And if I have my pick line, we're just going to pick the middle of all of these. So again, pressing Tab, it'll cycle through until it comes to what I want. And if you just click and pick, all your walls are created. Now we're going to go to the 3D view, and you can see those are really tall walls and they're not quite where we want them. As you can see, there's this gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click each of these walls, each of the foundation walls. I'm going to click Attach Top / Base. I'm just going to attach them up to the floor of the walls that I just created. And this will come in handy when we do roofs. So go ahead and attach all of those. Now, as you can see, we have a complete box. And again, if you ever want to change these, you can just go over here to the properties. And we're going to make a exterior brick on CMU. So if we go back to our level 1 plan, you can see that that was a pretty complicated wall that I created in the 3D view. Now if you want to see different details in Revit, you can go over here down in the bottom left hand corner and you can click medium, and you can see that'll display a little bit more detail. And then if we go to fine, some walls are even more detailed than this. I'll show you more detail. Now this is a small model, so this won't matter, but you just want to keep an eye if you have a bigger model. Maybe it's better to work in coarse or medium so you don't slow down your computer as much. So now if we want to add certain elements to this. First, we want to connect. We want to have a top constraint, because if you see here before, if I undo that, our wall is really tall. And if we go to our elevation, it's above, it's to our 3rd floor. We'll say we only want these walls to go to the 2nd floor. If we highlight them, we can come over to our properties and we can have them set to only go up to a level 2. So that's what we're going to do. So you can go ahead and do that. We're going to go back to our level 1 plan. Now we're going to create some elements within this house. So first thing we're going to create is doors. So if you go to Home tab, click the door, you see it comes up with, again, this modify place door, and it gives you a bunch of different categories of single flush. But say we don't want a single flush door. Well, first we'll place a single flush door, and then I'll show you how to change it if you don't want a single flush door. As you can see, I can't click anywhere and create a door. I have to hover over a wall. Depending on which side I approach the wall at is how the door will be created. So we're going to do an exterior door. So if I just hover over and click, you see it created the door. Now if I hit escape twice, it gets me out of that. I can click on the door again, and these little handles allow you to switch the door swing after you've placed it, depending on which side of the wall, which way, left or right-handed. So that's a fun little tip for Revit. Also, if you want to change this before you place it, if we go back to door and have another door, you can just hit spacebar and it switches the door swing before you even place it. So go ahead and create a couple of doors. Alright, now if you want a different type door other than single flush, you're going to, once you click the door in the Home tab, you're going to go to your modify place door, and you're going to want to load a family. Now Revit works in families, and that's all the components that are loaded. So as you can see, when you do that, it goes to the default Revit library, and it has a few doors already in the door folder. So if we open that up, we can see there's a bunch of doors in here. So pick one that you like. So I'm going to do the single raised panel with side lights. So if you double click it, it'll automatically load it into your project in Revit. And it will also automatically load it to be placed. So I'm going to place one on this side of my building. I'm going to switch the door swing there using the space bar again. And as you can see, Revit tags all of your doors, and this is for later on when you do a door schedule. Revit takes note of all the doors and windows and categorizes them and allows you to easily create schedules for later on. So now if we want to create windows, it's much the similar way. It gives you the default fixed window with all these different dimensions. So I can go ahead and click multiple windows down, and say, just like doors, say I didn't want this door size, you can just go ahead and click a different size and Revit will automatically adjust it. Same thing with windows. Click on it, come over to the properties, click a different size, and it'll change. And as you can see, the tag also changes because it's a different type window. Revit recognizes that and it assigns it a different number. Now, just like doors, if you want to change up, and sometimes it'll prompt you to save, so always save your projects. I'm not going to save right now, but you can, and you should if it's a project that you're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and load more windows. So again, you go to Load Family, scroll down to the Windows column, and I'm going to create a double hung window. So double click it, or you can click it once and click Open. It'll load it into Revit. I'm just going to create a few more windows. Now, the Revit always places the tag on the outside of the window. So that's how you know if your window's on the right side. If the tag appears inside, you're going to want to go ahead and flip the window and then move the tab by clicking it and then hovering over it, and you'll see it gives you that move. Clicking it and then dragging it outside. Now as you can see, if I move it, Revit will want to align to whatever's around it. So it'll align to other window tags that are outside. Doors are fairly easy also because of their swings. You know which side's in and out. Sometimes with walls you can't always tell, so you might need to go to a 3D view to see that your wall is actually inside out, and you'll need to flip that. All right, so now we have a couple basic components in there. We're going to go ahead and show you how to load other components. So if we go back to our Home tab, you can click Component, and as you see, Revit loads typically desk, parking spaces, and trees here. So I'm going to place one desk in here, a 72-inch by 36, by clicking over here on the properties. And if you, just like doors, you can rotate the angle of your door or of your desk based on pressing spacebar. Now say I have, I'm just going to create a diagonal wall real quick. Say I have this wall and I want the component to orient to that. If I come close to it and press tab or spacebar, sorry, it'll orient itself to that element. And if I come back to a straight element, it'll orient itself to that. So you can go ahead and create a couple of desks. Now say you don't want desks, but you like other components. If you click that component button again from Home, and you go to Modify Place Component, you can also load other families. So it gives you a couple of default things. So we're going to go to let's see, plumbing fixtures, and you can see it gives you a bunch of different typical components. So we're going to do a commercial domestic 3D toilet. And it'll load, and it'll say there's no tags for plumbing fixtures. If you need tags later on for scheduling, you can go ahead and load one of those, but we're going to say that's fine. Cancel. You can see it loads a toilet. Now as you can see, if you get near a wall, it'll want to snap to that wall. So you can place toilets in there, and that's how you can create other components the same way by loading. Now say you don't have a component that you want, you can go to, sorry, trying to find it. Insert. An insert is this bar that's called Search Autodesk Seek. You can type in whatever you want, so I'm going to type in chair, and it'll take you to Revit's online database of all the different components that they're starting to assemble for a massive library. And from that site you can download a Revit family file and load it into your project and continue to use it. You can also go on to different resources such as revitcity.com, and there's a list of those on the Beehive folder. So now we have a couple of components, a couple of windows, doors created. We're going to go ahead and create some columns. So columns are basically the same way. They're just components. So you can create a few in there. And again, Revit will want you to align them. Let's say we have a column grid. So you're going to go to your Home tab. And as you can see, if I double click on the Home tab, it'll cycle through different ribbons. So if you double click by accident and all your ribbons disappear, just keep double clicking on that, or you can come over here to the top and click on this button and it'll cycle through them. So we're going to go to our Home tab, and over on the right hand side there's something called Datum. We're going to click Grid, and what this allows you to do is create, much like levels, we're going to create grids on the first floor. So if you click and drag we're going to make 2 grid lines in this direction. Then we're going to make 2 grid lines in the vertical direction. However, if you can see, it keeps naming it 3 because it wants to continue the grid line numbering system. But we don't want 3, we want a letter. So we're going to just rename that A. And Revit's smart enough to know that, hey, you're creating another grid lettering system or numbering system. So when you create another grid line, it's going to name it B. Now, if I move these columns under these grid lines, Revit recognizes that and allows them to be placed on the intersection of the grid lines. We're going to actually create one more column, place it on the intersection of the grid lines. Now if we move these grid lines, Revit will move the columns with them. So you always want to create your columns on a grid line so that if you ever want to move them later, it's easy to move them. Now when you're creating columns also, you want to make sure that their base level and top level are offset correctly, just like walls. But you can always go back and edit these things, which is one plus of Revit. So once we have this set, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a ceiling. So all you do is go to your Home tab, click the Ceiling button, and right now it's set to automatic sketch. So you can sketch your ceiling if you only have part of your building having a ceiling, or you can do automatic ceiling, and anywhere that's boundary by exterior walls, it'll automatically select. So all you have to do is click, and it'll prompt you saying none of these elements are visible. But if we go to our ceiling plans, over here on the left-hand side in our project browser, we click level 1, you can see it actually did create a ceiling plan. If we open up 3D views, you can see it put a ceiling in right there. So now last but not least, we're going to create a roof. So if you go to your elevations, you can see that our roof right now will be set on level 2. So we're going to open up our level 2 floor plan. We're going to go to our Home tab and we're going to click Roof. Again, there's many different ways to create a roof, but right now we're going to do Roof by Footprint. We're going to click on the Pick Wall, and we're going to just pick the outside of the wall. But before we do that, we're going to make sure we set an overhang. So over here on your options, we're going to set a 2-foot overhang. And if you highlight coming in from the outside, Revit automatically attaches. And we're going to click the green check mark to create this roof. And if you go to your 3D view, you see it created the roof for us. But say we don't want all of these to be sloped. If we go back to our level 2 plan and select the roof, we can go ahead and edit the footprint. And if we click on one of these lines, we see that it has this triangle for slope defining, and it also gives us the slope. So if we click on it, we can come over here into the properties palette and click defines roof slope. And if you can either hit apply, or if you just come over, Revit automatically updates it without you having to click apply. If you just drag your mouse back into the project view itself. So we're going to undefine this slope. Another way is if you right click the line, we're going to do this on the other side, you can click toggle slope defining. That also turns it off. If you want to change the slope, you can just type in, so instead of 9 to 12, we can do 4 to 12 over here. Well, that's 94 inches to 12 inches. We're going to do 4 inches to 12 inches. Or if you click on it, you can also update that in the project properties. So now if we go back to 3D view, see, again, this is what I'm talking about. We're still in the modify. So you won't be able to work on anything or see anything else besides the roof. So you want to make sure you finish it by clicking the green check mark. And as you can see, we created kind of a salt box type roof. But now our walls aren't connected to our roof. So if we want our walls to connect to our roof, all you have to do is hover over them. And right now I'm only selecting this wall. If I want all the walls, again, remember you can tab to select different elements. So I want to pick all of the walls on the exterior. So you can click, select, tab, Then we're going to do attach top/base, just like we did with the foundation. And Revit automatically joins our walls with our roof. So you can see right there, it attaches everything. Now one last thing I forgot. In level 1, say we want to add other walls to the interior partitions. You can go ahead and click the wall within the home. And we're going to pick, we're going to do an interior 5-inch partition. Then in the parentheses next to this, you can see it says 2 hour. That's the fire rating, just in case you ever need that. We can do a few things with interior walls. You can click on the edge of a wall, and then click to the other wall, and it'll automatically join them. You see it gets rid of the line in between. Or if we just click and drag to the middle, it'll keep chaining the walls until you're done. Also, once you select walls, again, you can drag them. You can delete them by pressing delete. Or if you have walls like this that you want to attach here, you can use the trim command. So if you go to modify and hover in the center over trim to extend corner, you can click that, or you can see the hotkey is TR. Revit combines trim and extend because it knows essentially when you want to trim or extend something. So if we click this wall that we just created and this, it will trim the one wall and it will extend the other. Now if we click this wall again, you can see that depending on which side of the wall I click on, that's the side it's going to keep. So we want to keep this middle side, so we're going to click there and it extends it to that. Now say we want to create another wall. And we want to trim or extend to there. I'm going to press TR for the hotkey. We can click this wall and this wall again, and it'll trim it to create this room. Now this is kind of a funky building, but doing it quick. So that's basic creating of a building within Revit. So feel free to explore and contact us with any questions through the Beehive folder forum.